Hey everyone, how has your day been? Welcome to the first ever episode of Science Up Comedy. While recording the first clip, we forgot the name of our podcast, so we are back with second take in the formal language. And as the name suggests, we're gonna not do comedy and science because that's just not us. Rather, we're gonna make science more comfortable for you. It's not gonna be a subject that's unapproachable and you cannot reach it or you cannot deal with it and it's so boring and what the hell is all this? We're not gonna do any of it. Right? Rather, I'm gonna take you into the universe in a very easy manner and make you feel like you're sitting there, but without using your brain too much. Until now, I've seen that people find it difficult when I talk in the technical language about the universe. Like, if I'm, for example, explaining black holes and I suddenly say singularity, they go, huh? Singularity? Girl. So, yeah, we wouldn't be doing that this time. And this, thing is not just gonna broadcast on YouTube, but also for the first time ever, it's gonna broadcast on Spotify. So if you're not following us there, if you have not subscribed us on Spotify, go do it. I'll drop the link for it down in the description. And there also, it's called Science Up Comedy of the Cosmic Wonders, of course. I dropped like a short trailer in the past because that was necessary to just launch the channel on Spotify. Don't judge me for that. Also, in that trailer, you would hear me talk about Vedika, who was supposed to join us but didn't join us until now. So, Vedika, if you're listening to this, listen carefully. And today, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna make the things that happen on the first ride to the moon or the first drive to the moon more comfortable for you. Like, first of all, let me just give you a little bit history about it. When did it happen? Who made it happen? Was it even possible? Did it even exist? Or, like most of the world says, it's just an illusion, an amazing use of VFX. In 1969, there was no VFX, sadly. So for sure, it's not VFX. All those people who look at threads behind the astronauts, it's not threads, it's your illusion in your mind. Go to a doctor. Don't watch this podcast. Need to learn to speak. But yeah. So it happened, we went to the moon, and it was not the only time when we went to the moon. We went to it several times after that, but after a certain point, we had to stop. Why did we stop? Because many missions were failing. Many astronauts were dying, or something or the other was happening. Also, the space war started to happen, and it was turning really toxic. And it ended in the 1980s. I've made an entire video, so all those listening on Spotify, I've made an entire video that you can find on YouTube about space war between USSR and US, of course, that happened during that time. But today I'm just going to take up some random stories from the internet, and I'm going to literally read out to you from the internet. And they're going to be some of the weirdest things that you would not want to delve that much deeper into, but because they're actually fun, you'll realize the backstory or the behind the scenes BTS of the 1969 moon mission. Who were these three people from the earth who decided to become aliens for the duration of that one moon mission? And what did they really do? Did they actually find any aliens? Were there any alien signals that we received? Well, there are thousands of stories, out of which we're going to discuss 6 here. And I know that I talk a lot, especially when it comes to astronomy and astrophysics. It's quite difficult for me to stop. But today I'm just gonna talk about these 6 stories that we're gonna straight up taking from the internet, and so yeah, I'm also gonna tell the resource of it because I do not want any copyrights for the first episode ever that I publish on Spotify. So it's BuzzFeed. It's BuzzFeed.com or .news, of course, that will give us 6 weirdly gripping space stories that are actually true. We'll check for that. But let me tell you one thing. It happened in 1969, but the preparation for it, of course, did not start in 1969. We sent a monkey, we sent a dog, and none of them returned to the earth safely. So it was a challenge for us. These people who have families that we are sending into space have to return back. And all those animal lovers, even I am an animal lover, and if you see the picture of the dog is so cute. And he's sitting inside that space shuttle, not knowing what is happening to him, and he's sent to space, and he dies within like 2 days of staying in space. Yeah. So we did not have to make it a sad funeral podcast, but I didn't really like it. But we are coming back to the actual thing that happened. And let's start with the first story that happened in 1969 when the 3 astronomers went to space and the first man stepped on the moon, Neil Armstrong. Oh yeah, one more thing that I remembered, that I suddenly recalled, that I read somewhere. There are so many that eyes. I'm sorry for that. But yeah. Neil Armstrong had to actually sign 1,000 autographs before he left for the moon, because there was no guarantee, or less chances, or maybe chances but not 100%, of him and the team returning back to the earth. Like Buzz Aldrin and everyone had to sign 1,000 autographs when they were going to the moon. And also a life insurance was granted to them on, like, they asked NASA to grant them a life insurance that if anything happens to me, the bank is not gonna believe my family, that my husband, my brother, or my son, or my whatever father died. And the bank asks, sorry, but what happened? Oh, actually, he was at the moon. Yeah, we are sorry. There's no life insurance at the moon. So yeah, they wanted to avoid that story to take place. That's why these astronomers asked NASA to give them a special life insurance before they went to the moon. And to the family also some compensation was given, which is like, they didn't die. Okay. Coming to the first story here. That time, we found a signal from space that might have been aliens. And there's a picture, which if you're watching on Spotify, you cannot see, but if you're watching it on YouTube, then you might be able to see. So if you're watching it on Spotify, don't just subscribe on Spotify, but also subscribe on YouTube. If my voice is breaking because I'm suffering from cold, I do not talk like this. I do not like this. Great English. Okay, so it was August 1977. An astronomer, Jerry Ehman, was looking. So it's not 1969. I say again, it's about all the space stories. Okay, it's not just limited to 1969. Okay. Where was I? 1977, an astronomer called Jerry Ehman was looking through computer readouts from a telescope tasked with searching for possible alien signals when something rare happened. He actually found something. The Big Ear telescope, based at Ohio State University, had been pointing at a star called Chi Sagittari. Not trying to be racist, but guess which country would have named the star? Okay, as part of an experiment to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Ehman was volunteering with the SETI program at that time, and one evening he was poring over the printouts when saw a string of numbers and letters 6EQUJ5. To this day, that sequence is considered by many to be the best candidate for an extraterrestrial signal we have ever seen. But one thing that I don't understand, are these numbers universal? Weren't they also invented by humans? And like even dinosaurs don't know about them. How can we expect extraterrestrial life, which does not even belong to the Earth, to know about letters and numbers and sequences and series and whatever the crap that we do here in the name of society and culture and race of everything that I don't like? So, how can we expect them to know about all of this? And if they do know about all of this and we know nothing about them, it should be threatening for us. Because we have claimed to see all these spaceships like roaming around in the sky, but we have never been able to actually communicate with them. We have never been able to reach them. So, what actually happens? Why are we lagging behind? Is there something big happening? Somebody controlling us? Something like that? Because it's actually scary. But yeah, continuing with the story. Named the WOW signal. So we call it the WOW signal after what Ehman wrote on the printout. It was a burst of narrowband radio waves at a frequency of 1420 megahertz, which is quite loud. For the most part, natural sources like galaxy and stars are what's called wideband radio sources. Narrowband sources, like the signal Ehman had found, tend to be human-made. In the years since, people have tried to explain it in various ways. In fact, last year, astronomer Antonio Paris, or Paris, I would say. So this article was published in the year 2017. So I'd say last year would mean 2016. In the year 2016, one astronomer named Antonio Paris of St. Petersburg College, Florida, did come up with a more fun-of-the-mill explanation. He found two comets called 266P, or in the human language, it was called Christensen, and 335P, or in the human language again called Gibbs, and not discovered until years later, that would have been in the observing area on the night of the WOW signal was recorded. Okay, comets tend to release a lot of hydrogen, and 1420 megahertz is one of the main frequencies with which atoms of hydrogen absorb and emit energy. But the jury is still out on whether this explanation fits. What do you think? Does it fit? Mine, my take on this would be that it does. I mean, if you search in the timeline, I would say that there was more than these two comets, in fact, that led to the happening of the signal, and it was for sure not an alien signal and not some extraterrestrial species trying to contact us with human language. And if they were trying to contact us, and if they were very near to us, they were like right on the moon, why didn't they come to the Earth? Same sort of research, in fact, far more deep research is going on the Earth. Why do you need to go to the ISS, International Space Station, which is not even on the moon? It's like within the Earth belt. Why do you have to go there? So yeah. Moving on to the next space fact, or the next story. That time, Apollo astronauts heard weird outer space type music on the far side of the moon. So again, I would become a bone in the dish and say that, dude, we never went to the moon before. It was the first time we were going there. Of course, you would hear sounds different from usual. You would see stuff different from usual. You would see Earth as a whole planet for the first time. It's magical, but there's nothing weird about it. It's not weird music that you're listening. It's just space sound, space music that you're listening, that you were listening through machine so far, but now your ear is acting as your machine, and your ear responds differently than a tool that you build in your office or wherever. If you're building it at home, I'm sorry for you, or I'm proud of you. I don't know. In 1969, 3 Apollo 10 astronauts, 1969, hey, and Apollo 10 were orbiting the moon. 2 in a new lunar module, just miles above the surface, and 1 in the command module, higher up, when they heard something unusual. Their conversation, as preserved in NASA's archives, went like this. That music even sounds outer spacey, doesn't it? You hear that? That whistling sound? Said Eugene. Yes, said Thomas Stafford, mission commander. Ooh, say your, began Sermon. Did you hear that whistling sound too? Asked John Young, command module pilot. Yes, sounds like, outer spacey music, said Cernan, sorry. Later on, Cernan brought it back in. That eerie music is what's bothering me, you know that? God damn, I heard it too, said Young. That was funny, said Cernan. That's just like something from outer space, really. Who's going to believe it? Like, who is going to believe that you went to space? Or your friends are not going to consider you mad, dude? What the? I don't know. We ought to think about it some. Yeah, they were just trying to figuring out a way of how to communicate this thing to the human species. The strangeness and the uniqueness of space. They were just figuring out ways. And I just didn't find this fact or story compelling at all. Collins wrote on his book Carrying the Fire. So if you have not read the book Carrying the Fire, you should read it, because a lot of science facts are wrong there, but many are right. And it gives you an insight into actual what a person who actually goes to the moon feels like. So yeah, that NASA technicians warned him he might hear a strange whistling sound while lunar module was on its way to the surface of the moon, and that if they hadn't, it might have scared the hell out of them. So that is the catchy part. If they do not hear it, that means space is completely different for them. Or that would just mean that they have died in space. That's the only reason that they're not responding to sensory things that mostly everyone from the past has responded to. Okay, third story. I know it has been a long time. I don't know how much time it has been though. Okay, 20 minutes, 21 seconds for two stories, I'm sorry. It's not that wrong, but we also elongated the introduction part. I'm sorry, I talk a lot. But okay. That time, 2 cosmonauts landed in the mountains in Siberia and had to survive freezing temperatures for 2 nights. Yeah, this thing I actually know about. So, the astronauts who went to, who did not go to the moon, but in 1965, they just went to, cycle the Earth around. I think they were from Russia, and because of this competition going on between Russia and US about who goes first and who goes second and what not, so 2 of the scientists going there had to return back to the Earth, but because of some technical issue, they had to land in the country of Siberia. Now Siberia is not just known for the people living there, if you know what I'm talking about. But it is also known for the extreme cold weather. And after returning back from the moon, from the cold area, all that they wanted was some peace. And what they got was the opposite of peace. And they had to survive for like 2 to 3 days. I guess, yeah, 2 nights it was. So 2 to 3 days in Siberia. So that's the whole thing that happened. I'm just gonna skip through that story because the video is getting too long, or the podcast is getting too long. Okay, fourth one. That time, an astronaut landed off course and was found by a group of nomadic shepherds. Okay, I'm gonna read through this one because this just sounds really interesting. Leonov and Belyayev, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Belyayev, are not the only astronauts to have landed where they shouldn't have. Seong Yi, the first Korean in space, and I think it's a woman as I see in the picture, was coming back from the International Space Station in 2008 when her Soyuz capsule, so it was Soyuz the capsule was called, had to switch to a backup method for re-entry and ended up going off course 300 miles away from where she and the rest of the crew were supposed to land. They had no okay, so this is in double quotes. They had no idea about the space program. They had no idea about the astronauts, and they had really big, huge eyes. She told the BuzzFeed. So she's talking about the shepherds who she landed on. Imagine you're just sitting, chilling, having some coffee with your friends in like a small village somewhere next to Texas, and suddenly you look up in the sky and you're still drinking coffee and you're discussing with your friend. You think that thing from the sky, you think it's becoming larger and larger every second, and then you slowly realize that it's actually a space shuttle coming down to you from the sky just for you, and suddenly it's a miracle for you in 2008, and you just see these people coming out of the space shuttle, and it's just 3 people and you call them aliens. And she goes on to say they finally realized we were humans, so that means of course they thought that they were aliens, not an alien, and they helped us. So it took them a lot of time for them to realize that, see, I also drink the same coffee, we are both humans. I'm sorry, why am I doing this accent to describe Koreans? I'm sorry. Not an alien, and they helped us. So finally they understood and they helped them out. So this is a really interesting story out of all the 4 stories that we read so far. Okay, 5th one. That time when an astronaut's helmet started filling with water while he was on spacewalk. So this thing actually really is very common and very dangerous also, but very common. So of course, you know that in space there is air, but not that much air. There is gravity, but not that much gravity. So all these things that you experience on the earth, it's the opposite there. There is humidity, but not that much humidity. So it becomes very difficult for the environment to absorb any kind of moisture, which leads to such moments. So again, I think I don't find this story as interesting to talk about it. But this is the major reason that would have led to this outcome. Okay, that time we maybe found an alien megastructure orbiting a distant star. So I am not going to talk about it because we have already discussed it in the first time. And all these people claiming to have found aliens, you cannot find them. Because if you're trying to find them from the ISS, which has comparatively very less equipment as compared to actual NASA, you're being fooled either by human signals that are being sent to you or that have been sent to the solar system around you. You're being fooled by them or the past signals that existed or something like that. Because there is no alien within the solar system, within the Kepler belt. Otherwise, we would have detected it from the Earth long back. There's no need to go on the orbit of the Earth and then being able to detect it, or going to the moon, which is right next to the Earth, and then being able to detect it. If you want to find life on moon, then the moon mission is justified. But if you want to find life beyond the moon, on moon, it's not justified. So stop doing that. And try, as we are doing now, the James Webb Telescope is doing now. We are taking the realm of search far beyond the possibilities and far beyond the limitation of the Kepler belt or of even the Milky Way. That is what is necessary. We have fed up ourselves too much, searching for life, searching for planets around us to live on, that we even did not leave Mars. And there's hardly any water on Mars, so that's a discussion for a different day to do. But yeah, so that's it for today. We just don't discuss 6 stories as I promised, but we at least discussed 4 in detail. And hopefully you found it interesting and not boring like I usually am. So if you meet me in person, or you just talk to my friends about me, they'll tell you. So yeah, hopefully you found it nice. Have a nice day ahead. Tell me what you want to discuss about it. I have quite a few ideas in my head, but I'll of course take up whatever your ideas are, and subscribe to our YouTube as well as Spotify, and like us on both the channels. We're gonna be continuous here. I promise it is gonna be in continuation and not just limited to a day of your service. Bye bye.